All right, y'all, buckle up. We got a lot of Kanye clips to discuss. So he went on Drink Champs with Nori, and so this podcast was so wacky and so over the top, and he said so many things that are yikesy that they put a disclaimer before the podcast. Like, just so you know, this is not, this is not the opinion of everybody at Revolt. This is not the opinion of the host. It's not the opinion of Drink Champs. This is not the opinion of, whatever network they're affiliated with. They're just letting you know up front. www.relax.com, dog. If you're mad, point that at Kanye. Don't point it at us. Point it at Kanye. So, look, let's just dive into it here. There's so much stuff that I can't even fit all of this, even into a long segment. I can't get all the clips of him saying wacky things. So, this first clip, I need you to understand something. This was within the first 3 minutes of the podcast.
We made the White Lives Matter tees, and then when I put up the tweet, the DEF CON tweet, now he ain't releasing the tee because he's Jewish. And I'm like,
so he wanted to sell a White Lives Matter tee. Whoever he was in business with doesn't want to sell it, and Kanye goes, well, that's because he's Jewish. He doesn't want to do it. There's almost no businessman who would want to sell that. Why would they want to do that? Because then they're also tarnishing themselves and affiliating themselves with far-right white supremacist movements. So it doesn't matter. You could find a Christian businessman, an atheist businessman, a Muslim businessman. They'll probably be like, I don't know about this one, dog. I don't know about this one. I don't know about this one. Because they don't want to lose future business with other people because they decided to do a White Lives Matter tee with Kanye, which will probably sell terribly anyway. Unbelievable. All right, we're just getting started.
My exact point that I'm making. Like, Jewish people have owned the black voice, whether it's through us wearing a Ralph Lauren shirt, or it's all of us being signed to a record label, or having a Jewish manager, or being signed to a Jewish basketball team, or doing a movie on a Jewish platform like Disney. And we understand it's
a Jewish platform like Disney? Huh?
Like, I respect what the Jewish people have done and how they brought their people together. They came into money through the lawyers.
He is he's got the training wheels on for this one. Oh, it's gonna get a lot crazier. Yeah, this was the disclaimer before the interview that I was just talking about. Okay, we got more Kanye on Jewish media. Somebody should go back and do a count how many times he said the word Jewish in the podcast. It's probably, honestly, more than a Hitler speech. No exaggeration. That is not hyperbole. That's a straight fact.
Is from American Apparel.
Okay.
But I'm talking about put out my White Lives Matter tee. The White Lives Matter tee don't say nothing. It don't say DEF CON or nothing on it, right? I'm like, put it out. And he's telling me, like, yo, I want you to visit the Holocaust Museum. And I was like, yo, I want you to visit Planned Parenthood. That's our Holocaust Museum.
I know Kanye thinks he's making some brilliant point. He keeps making this point over and over. He made it on Tucker as well. Is it true that the beginning of Planned Parenthood was super sketchy because, yes, Margaret Sanger was a eugenicist and there are all these problems associated with it? That's all totally true. But does that mean that in 2022, if somebody goes to Planned Parenthood and gets the morning after pill, that this is all part of some, big plot to exterminate black people or some shit? Of course not. Of course not. Standard reproductive health care is effectively what goes on at Planned Parenthood now. Now, look, if you have some criticisms of, for example, late-term abortion, that's fine. I got criticisms of that too. No big deal. But the over 90% of abortions are not even close to late term. In fact, they're very early term. And so what's the beef? What, do you just want to abolish all Planned Parenthood? You want to get rid of all abortion, get rid of Plan B? And by the way, the overwhelming majority of stuff that goes on at Planned Parenthood is not even related to abortion. So he thinks he's making a brilliant point here. I promise you it is not.
I'm like, yo, I put my life on this at this point. Because they've been fucking with me too long.
They
put the crazy narrative out there.
They.
My Jewish trainer, Harley Pasternak, who's Lizzo's trainer, put it out when I went to the hospital, put it in the press. I got a bunch of friends that went to the hospital. It didn't go to the press. They did that just like they did in the documentary on the 3rd episode to say, we love Ye like the rest of y'all. We know he a genius like the rest of y'all, but sometimes you got to turn the camera off on him. So they'll go and get a dude that's supposed to...
Okay. That's them trying to help you. He might not understand that. He thinks it's part of some big plot with this giant Jewish cabal is trying to undermine him and hurt him. That could be these people trying to help you. Because yes, if the camera's on you 24/7, you say shit like this. You say the word Jewish like 412 times. It's funny. Again, guys, this is classic bipolar thinking. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. He doesn't take his meds. And this is the result. Classic bipolar thinking. He's in a manic state. He thinks there's this giant conspiracy against him. He's very paranoid. That's what this is.
To be my friend that's been taping me the whole time and buy this nigga out for $30 million.
I thought you co-signed that.
I ain't co-signing, but you get used to that. Paparazzi taking a picture of you. You ain't getting no money off it. Right. You just get used to getting screwed by the Jewish media. And I'm saying...
Hot damn. Okay, so he goes on here. You can see that this tweet says, even more Kanye on Drink Champ saying he's not anti-Semitic after just going on a 10-minute rant about Jewish people. Also calls Pete Davidson, Skeet, of course, even though Skeet is no longer with Kim Kardashian, but he's still taking shots at him. He goes after Trevor Noah because apparently Trevor Noah had gone after him. What do we got here? Cell announcing the Cell games to the whole Dragon Ball world. Okay, not sure what that one's about. Kanye's talking about the MAGA hat Kim Kardashian. So this is a great story. So, Kanye openly says in the podcast, like, hey, my wife said to me, this is back when Kim was his wife, hey, Kanye, stop wearing the MAGA hat. That's little dick energy. Come on, man. Don't tell me that's not a thought that a lot of people have fucking had. Of course, it's not true. Not every Trump supporter who wears the Trump has, like, they have a little... Of course not. But that's definitely a thought, which is a recurring thought among many people. In the same way, you see some, old dude with some over-the-top sports car, and you think, midlife crisis, and making up for little dick issues, bro? I don't know. I'm just asking. Or, the guys with the huge pickup trucks that are like way obnoxious and over the top, and cars with the loud like engine. Come on, don't tell me you haven't had the thought. You look at that, you're like, are you overcompensating for something, bro? I'm just asking questions, dog. I'm just asking questions. All right, so now let me get to. I have some timestamps here for you. And this just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And again, I can't even fit all of this stuff in. Let's go.
That's what I'm saying. What happens to these cities when we have somebody so illustrious becomes from the city, and then now the city becomes the murder capital? Like, that's what it seems like.
But look at like Barack. Look at his hair color when he went in. Look at the hair color when he went out.
Yeah, everyone said. Yeah,
True.
Because if you don't have the connections, Trump had enough connections to make it into office, but he didn't have the Jewish media on his side. Because the Jewish media...
Kanye, please stop saying Jewish. For the love of God, Kanye, stop saying Jewish. He's deep in this stuff. Deep into this stuff. Kanye's one of those dudes with his mental illness and his contrarianism. You put him in front of the wrong Reddit thread, or you get him going down the wrong YouTube rabbit hole, or reading the wrong forum online, this motherfucker will believe anything. And he's Jewish media. Jesus Christ.
It was already aligned with an agenda with the left, with the Chinese. So you got
the Jewish media. What did he say? The Jewish media was already in alliance with the left and the Chinese?
Make it into office. But he didn't have the Jewish media on his side. Because the Jewish media was already aligned with an agenda with the left, with the Chinese.
Okay, look, I have a million criticisms of mainstream media, but it is not that they're Jewish, and it is not that they're aligned with the Chinese or the left. By the way, the media, okay, you guys are not going to be surprised to hear this, but random person watching this video might be surprised to hear this. The media is not left-wing. They're not. They are pro-establishment. You could say CNN, MSNBC, ABC News, NBC News, CBS News, they have a liberal bias. They're biased in favor of, standard corporate Democrat politicians, neoliberal Democrats. They defend the Democratic establishment. That's fair. That's not the left, Kanye. That's not the left. In fact, oftentimes the left is even more critical of liberals than the right is. Sometimes it even goes over the top, right? And mainstream media, in allegiance with China, what are you talking about? And for the love of God, they are not all Jewish. They are not all Jewish. In fact, the majority of the people who work at these media companies are probably Christian. They're probably Christian. So I don't... It all, for him, it all goes back to, it's the Jews, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. You'll see, it doesn't stop, man. It does not stop.
So you got like Alex Baldwin dissing, Trump soon as he went in, used to be his boy. You got black people dissing Trump. Black people know they love Trump. Yeah. We used to have raps. Guess who the black Trump? But
okay, Trump represented, like billionaires in the hip hop community. Like he's a lot, it is true, a lot of hip-hop culture sort of internalizes this idea of meritocracy and like the economy is a hierarchy, and if you make it to the top, you earned your way to the top. And so a lot of hip-hop culture is very materialistic and consumerist. That's why you rap about, I got Gucci on or Balenciaga and look at my fucking Maserati and all that shit, and here's women shaking their asses and whatnot. And so, yes, there was a time when Trump was often referenced in rap songs. But when he became political and it became obvious that, he's got a bunch of beliefs that are deeply right-wing, most rappers sort of turned on him. They turned on him. So it's not like, back in the day, Trump was like the height of the billionaire, the, materialism to the max. Look at all of his gold shit. Look at how he's got all this money, he made it to the top. And that is celebrated in rap culture. But at some point, they turned on him. Because the hip-hop community is, in some ways you could say they're conservative, right? But politically, it's not like people in the hip-hop community were sucking off George W. Bush when he was president, right? So I don't think there was a time where that changed in the hip-hop community. He's just ignoring that.
Could have been better at messaging. That's what I feel like the rhetoric was just unnecessary sometimes.
But it's that frustration. It's like what I had to learn is like that thing I said with DEF CON, that was like me going Trump, level. Right. That was, you can't, as you see, when we got warmed up, it's like a conversation where, even in the beginning, we'll see if we want to use stuff in the beginning, if it's any of the messaging.
Right, I definitely need another one.
That we want to put out,
You got me going, man.
The only possible way that I could have won, that I'm a win, the only possible way is for me.
He's referring to the fact that he wants to run for president in 2024 and he thinks he can win.
To early on call out the Jewish media this early, right? Because they'll play nice with you. But I see him fucking with me like the SoFi Stadium, like 78 media outlets calling me an abuser based off something Trevor Noah said, me being canceled from the Grammys, and me being said, they saying that I said a racial slur because I said, Kumbaya, my lord, Kumbaya, talking about Trevor Noah.
By the way, that is rich, that Kanye would call Trevor Noah that. Now, I'm no fan of Trevor Noah. But who's the one who's telling the people on the far right and the legit white supremacists what they want to hear? Who's the one who's leaning into that role right now? So for you to say that about somebody else? And look, I don't want to hear any bitching when people in the black community call you that, Kanye.
And then they kicked me off the Grammys, and I was slated to win Album of the Year for the first time in my life. It's my 10th album. It's the most number ones. And
see, it all comes back to personal grievance. You could tell it's all, woe is me, I'm such a victim, I'm such a genius. Again, classic, like, paranoid delusions of grandeur, delusions of grandeur. That's the phrase. Untreated bipolar disorder. I mean, there's no other way to say it. But I got more.
Was pushing the narrative off the white lives White Lives Matter t-shirt that I didn't love black people. And
That's when it came off.
And I came back and I was like, no, fuck the Jewish media. And everybody's like, what? Wait, what? Right now, we're supposed to be living in...
Yeah, people are like, what? Because that is super duper anti-Semitic and it makes zero sense. Nobody has been more critical of corporate media than me. But the substance of your criticism matters. In fact, it's everything. And your criticism is, it's an evil cabal of Jews who are trying to, what? Destroy the country, destroy black people. They're in cahoots. It's purposeful. And that's fucking stupid. And that's not, so when everybody's like, what? They're correct to be like, what?
And breathing in the, Ye doesn't like black people because he wears a red hat. Ye doesn't like black people because he... And I was like, nah, fuck that. And God was like, fuck that. On some like Moses, like, think about like Moses had 4 chapters.
So now God's involved? How the fuck is God involved in any of this? Look, I'm telling you, man, he's definitely got bipolar disorder. He might have some semblance of schizophrenia too. For real. Because this is, and he said this too in the Tucker interview, and they had cut this part out of the interview, where he talks about, I have these visions of these kinetic energy cities, and God is speaking through me. God's not speaking through you, man. That's your own voice, in your own head, from your own mental illness. And he says it like everybody around him should be like, yeah, true, nailed it. Yeah, it's God. What?
Like, contrary to popular belief, I did read the 4 chapters of Moses, right?
Because you say you ain't read somewhere.
No, what I'm saying, yeah, I've never actually finished a novel, right?
That's fantastic.
He's bragging about that fact, man. Look, you can't say that in one breath and in the next breath be like, I'm a genius. I'm brilliant. And I never read a book. But the one I did read, the parts of it I did read about Moses and God and fucking sky wizards, I'm going to tell you that, you know, an almighty force is speaking through me. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because by the way, you know, one thing is there's nothing whiter than English itself. I do not like to read, like I do not like to work out, like I do not like, you know, there's certain stuff in life that is currently necessary that I don't like.
I mean, that's true about all of us, right? But we still do some of it. You still do some of it.
That don't make, I'm not disregarding people. Some people are more powerful. How many people do you know that can read very well, that can't dance very well?
But see, look.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
It's because we're going to demand the amendments, the amendments in our culture. We're going to demand, I'm Me Tooing the Jewish culture right now and saying, y'all got to come
I'm Me Tooing the Jewish culture?
And say what y'all have done between the mob action, what they'll do for...
Okay, look, this is so obvious, I shouldn't even need to say it, but the problem here is he's essentializing and generalizing all Jews, saying you're all responsible for it, you all have to come out and say what you've done. What does that even mean? Look, there are people I love... Okay, one of my best friends, 2 of my best friends happen to be Jewish, right? What are they doing? How are they involved in this, Kanye? You know what one of them is doing right now? He's a doctor. He's helping people in an emergency room to survive after traumatic injuries. That's what one of my friends is doing. Corin is Jewish, right? What does Corin do? He works a regular-ass job. He works a job at a sporting company. What are you talking about? Jewish people got to own up to what they did. And like, what are you talking about? This essentialization, this generalization of all Jews. Now, by the way, flip the script. If somebody were to say this about black people, how would Kanye react? Well, actually, I don't know, because now, today's iteration of Kanye, maybe he wouldn't give a fuck if somebody said, you know, tried to blame all black people for the actions of a tiny number of black people. Maybe he wouldn't care. But you know, old Kanye, if he heard somebody generalizing about all black people, essentializing about all black people, like, oh, they're criminals and they're lazy or whatever the fuck, he'd be like, that's fucking racist. You want to know why? Because it's racist. That's racist. That's like textbook racism. Unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable.
Groupthink, like if you go against them, I put the White Lives Matter t-shirt and they cancel my shows. And they've actually called multiple people and threatened them to step away from me. They call Candace Owens. They call Tucker Carlson. They call anybody, even the people that was with me.
It's funny that they would make that call, like whatever, I'm sure it was like Candace Owens' management team or Tucker Carlson's management team or the higher-ups at Fox News that were like, hey, back off a little bit. This guy's in the middle of a psychotic break. The reason why they would do that, Kanye, is because you actively undermine every idea you talk about. When you bolster Trump, when you push right-wing politics, it's not helping Trump or right-wing politics because you're clearly in the middle of a mental health breakdown. So that's why they would say that. They're not saying that because hide the truth. Kanye's spitting the truth, so you have to hide the truth, so don't associate with Kanye for that reason. That's not what it is. You wish it was that. It is not that.
When I had the red hat, they called them. Tucker Carlson works for Fox. Fox is not allowed to show anything because just like when Jared Kushner was in office and I say that he held my boy Trump back, think about that if I had said that.
So notice, everything bad Trump did was all because of Jared Kushner and whichever Jewish people happened to be in Trump's administration. Look at this thinking, man. Look at this thinking. So what, Trump on his own couldn't do any bad things? Any things that you, Kanye West, be like, I don't know, man, I don't fully agree with that one. He's literally blaming all of it on whatever Jewish people were in Trump's administration. Now, Jared Kushner shouldn't have been in the administration in the first place, but that's not because he's Jewish, it's because it's his fucking son-in-law, and that's rank nepotism. But look at this kind of thinking.
5 years ago. I want to talk about the people that threatened my life.
But that's when you was in full support of Trump.
I'm still in full support of Trump. I just think that I would be better than Trump.
If you would have said that Jared Kushner lined in, it would have been...
Lined in with who, though? You said he lined in with Trump.
Jared Kushner is an example of how the Jewish people have their hand on every single business that controls the world.
Oh my God, man. Holy fucking shit. The problem with Jared Kushner is not that he's Jewish. The problem with Jared Kushner is that he's a corrupt-ass businessman, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, inherited a shitload of money, got to where he is because of rank nepotism, failed up his entire life. The real problem with Jared Kushner is the unearned wealth and privilege. That's the problem with Jared Kushner. That's the problem with Jared, and that's the problem with extreme inheritance. That's the problem with capitalism. That's the problem with corruption. None of this has to do with him being Jewish. None of it. None of it. But look how Kanye thinks, man. He's gone all the way down this rabbit hole. There's another point in the podcast where he throws Ice Cube under the bus, and he's like, I want to thank Ice Cube for putting me onto this anti-Semite shit. And there's another part of the podcast, I forgot to put the timestamp for this part, but it was actually probably the most jarring part of the podcast, where he says, Kanye says, I'm doing what I'm doing now because I want a young little Jewish boy to go to his daddy and say, Daddy, what have we done wrong? So Kanye literally wants to blame even little Jewish kids for seemingly every problem in the country. Man. Look, I said this yesterday. I would be shocked if this whole interview didn't get pulled. I'd be shocked if the video you're watching right now doesn't get pulled. I would be. Now, YouTube is generally more pro-free speech than other social media outlets. I've noticed that. But I mean, they did remember when they pulled the Trump podcast with the Nelk boys because he kept going on and on about rigged election, and they pulled it. And with the stuff Kanye said here, and again, I couldn't even fit it all into this segment. I have a feeling there's going to be some backlash, and YouTube's going to be under pressure, and they might cave to that pressure. We'll see. But look, the real solution here, not that there is any hard solution, but the real solution here is everybody just needs to, come out and speak out against this nonsense. But I will say, I think it's obvious Kanye is alienating more and more of the people who called themselves Kanye fans, because this stuff is deranged, it's unhinged, it's factually inaccurate, it's fucking stupid, it's bigoted, and it's honestly kind of pathetic. We're watching a slow motion car crash here. We're watching the downfall of Kanye West in real time. And what's crazy is nobody can actually get through to him and help him, and he clearly doesn't want to help himself. And it's a cautionary tale, man. It really is. Like, if he just took his bipolar medication, he would be fine. And he'd be able to make good music and all that stuff. But what happens oftentimes with people with this kind of mental illness is they think they're losing the part of them that makes them special. That's what they think. They think, when I take my medicine, I don't feel like myself. I'm losing my edge. I'm losing my brilliance. I'm losing my genius. And so I don't want to take the medicine. It makes me feel weird, makes me feel bad, and fuck it, I'm just not going to take it. I'm better when I'm off of it. When in reality, any sort of objective look at the situation, you'd go, not only are you not better, you're much worse. You're incredibly paranoid, you're connecting weird dots, you're a total idiot, and you turn into a bigoted psychopath, right? So it's severe, untreated mental illness mixed with, I think, contrarianism. Kanye's been in that Hollywood bubble, that celebrity bubble for a hot minute, and he looks around and everybody has similar opinions, right? There's sort of standard resistance liberals in the Hollywood bubble. And he's like, I'm not that. I'm smarter than you. I'm more intellectual than you. I'm not buying your bullshit. I'm going to look for the real truth. It's conspiracy thinking. And so his hardcore contrarianism mixed with untreated mental illness, this is the result. And unfortunately, the Jews are getting scapegoated, which happens oftentimes in history, doesn't it? It happens oftentimes in history. That's a go-to place for people throughout history. So there you have it. Kanye, he's ramping it up. He ain't gonna stop. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.